So hi, welcome if you're watching the replay. Love you guys. Thank you for tuning in. So yeah, yesterday we had the full Beaver's moon. The moon was in Taurus and it was accompanied by a partial lunar eclipse. So this was not a small astrological event. This lunar eclipse was huge and it ushered in the beginning of eclipse season, which is the season of major transformations, the season of quick endings and new beginnings. So a lunar eclipse is when the moon and the sun come into alignment, and then the earth kind of gets in the middle of them, and the shadow cast by the earth kind of eclipses the moon. So basically we have this super tense, like intense alignment of these three planetary bodies. And as we know, the sun and the moon are the physical representation of the two aspects of self, right? With the sun being the parts of yourself that you show the world, and the moon being these parts of yourself that you hide and keep to yourself. So when they line up like this, it opens up really, really magnetic portals for creation and for manifestation and for releasing, right? So the other thing is that we have the earth that works on this grid, right? It's this parallel and perpendicular kind of grid, very like boxy. And eclipse energy comes in diagonally. So it basically cuts through that vibrational grid and it creates an ability to harness this energy because it's breaking through the grids that the earth usually functions on. So eclipses become kind of like this slow burn, this opportunity to shed and cut through your old behaviors that might be keeping you from your highest destiny, which is why the first journal prompt I gave you guys was, how can I really cut the shit, right? I mean, I talk to people all day long. At this point, that's my job. And it also just tends to be the way of the world. Everywhere I go, somebody wants to talk to me. Today, I went to try to see the fairy pools. So just quick update on where I am exactly. I'm in Scotland, obviously, but I took 2 days to just kind of completely separate. It's been a really good amount of time since I've been in complete isolation and solitude. You know, I'm always traveling with a group of people. And so I came to the island of Skye about 4 hours away from where we're living. And it's this tiny little island and it's wild. Like there's just sheep and like everyone's out. It's just really a crazy place. And so I went to see this thing called the fairy pools, and they are these like waterfalls that like fall into these like blue or green pools. And of course I went and it was like a friggin' monsoon. So like there was so much rain and you have to like walk across the river, like an actual like flowing, rip roaring like river to like get to the pools. And typically there's like stepping stones that are, you know, you can step on, but because of the way the rain was coming down, the stones were under like this much water. So anyway, I get there and I'm wearing like $160 Doc Martens. Like I'm not going in the river. So like, forget it. So I'm like trying to find rain boots and this whole thing. And the guy that like runs the fairy pool, like security, is telling me this whole song and dance story about how I can go, but I'll have to swim. It's like negative degrees, like swim. Like, I don't know. But then he starts being like, he's like, yeah, you'd have to swim. You'd have to wait out into the cold weather. He's like, you know, my ex-wife used to like the cold water. And I'm like, oh no, here we go. I was like, all right, well, I'm going to head out. And he was like, you know, we were together for 20 years. And then one day she just decided she didn't want to be with me anymore. And I was like, I better pull up a chair. So I'm like in this monsoon with this like old Scottish guy who's going on a full entire rampage about how his ex-wife decided she was done with him. And like, she could take the cold water because she was a cold-hearted bitch. And I was just like, fascinating. So I was like, you know, maybe you should try to release some of your anger for her. Being like, man, I really just wanted to go to the fairy pools, but like, here we are. So I guess we have to do this now. And he was like, you know, you're right. You know, I've been really angry. And like, I know it's not really fully her fault. And I was like, well, you know, what part do you think you played? I mean, at this point, I was already so involved. I was like, I better just, you know, really just get in there. And so this like Scottish guys, you know, I didn't give her enough attention. And she used to like make all these like these efforts to like do things, and she wanted to take this like dance class, and like I should have done it. Maybe she wouldn't have like gotten bored of the situation and this whole thing. And so basically once you become like a point of attraction, you're always going to be a point of attraction. And he was definitely in his full moon feelings. I think that's across the board. Even if people don't know what they're feeling, you are feeling the currents of the moon, asking you to release shit that doesn't serve you, asking you to just let things go, right? And so, yeah, I asked you guys to cut through the bullshit and just be really honest with yourself. Where are you not showing up? Where are you claiming to show up more than you actually are? That's a big one, right? People are always like, I'm doing everything I can do. And I'm like, no, you're not. You're barely doing anything. And I know that's hard to hear, and I know that sucks, but you know, we have to keep it real. We create way more problems for ourselves by expecting outcomes for work we didn't do than by just accepting the reality of what we are putting out, right? Because a lot of the times, you know, I heard somebody talking about wealth like this. I think it was earlier this week. I was listening to a podcast, and she was talking about how we understand that some people are very, very wealthy, but it comes with a lot of effort and a lot of sacrifice that we're actually not really willing to do or to give. And, you know, so when we worship, follow, try to emulate people who've acquired wealth through means which we are unwilling to match, we make that mistake, right? So it's kind of important to understand that wealth and financial wealth, being a physical human construct, means that it is an energy that we can manipulate. So what that means is you don't have to do anything in order to accumulate wealth. You just have to be really clear on what wealth you want and why, and what you're willing to do to get it, right? You can't do nothing, but you don't have to do anything specific, right? Just like anything else. So basically, it's important to make sure that you're clear on what you're doing and why, and make sure that you're clear on what it is you want, and don't get mixed up about it. Don't get mixed up about why you're doing what you're doing. So a lot of the times, you know, like we've talked about in the past, people will say, oh, I love this person. He's makes a lot of money, and I'm kind of doing what he's doing. He likes to trade crypto, so I'm going to trade crypto because that's the gateway to making a lot of money. And, you know, if you convince yourself of that, then that will be true, just like anything else, right? And if you don't want to do that, or if you don't like that option, then don't convince yourself that that's the pathway to wealth, right? Only convince yourself that the pathway to wealth is a pathway you actually want to take, because whatever you convince yourself is the pathway to wealth will be the pathway to wealth for you, right? So make sure you pick one that you actually want to be on. Yeah. Most people are broke because they've decided that the way to wealth is a way that they don't really want to go. But really what they're noticing is not that the pattern that they've seen or the path that they've seen is the only one. It's just one that has already been realized by somebody, and then you witness that realization, right? But all you're doing in that is witnessing somebody else's realization, right? You're not witnessing what necessarily needs to be your realization, right? And the same thing goes with anything. Some people meet their soulmate on a dating app. Some people meet their soulmate in college. You know, if you decide, oh, well, the only way to meet somebody is on a dating app, then so it is. You better get on there. You better make your peace with that outcome. But let's not forget that our life is going to be a reflection of whatever we decide it's going to be. And so before I came into this cabin, we were searching for places to stay in England. And England is hog wild. They are charging like $3,000 to sleep outside in a sleeping bag. Like, you're like, oh, okay, like the prices are batshit crazy, honestly. But that being said, we found ourselves, I spent more time on Airbnb than anyone ever has, probably. And we really found ourselves seeing properties and being like, that's ridiculous. Like, that's astronomically expensive. That's too expensive, right? Setting a limit on like what a reasonable amount of money was to spend for a month. But then we have this really major problem here with also being people who want to acquire large amounts of wealth. Well, now we've put out two conflicting vibratory patterns that are going to smash into each other and create what? People who are poor. That's the way it works, right? If you're not attracting wealth, you're attracting poorness, for a better word, right? Lack of wealth. So when you say that you want financial abundance and you want the ability to not have to worry about money, but then you sit around and say that things are too expensive and that's the limit on what something should cost, then you're placing limits in your own mind on how much something should cost. But if you really had unlimited financial abundance, then you wouldn't even probably look at the price. You would just book the place you wanted to stay. So how do you do that, right? How do you come across something that you might want that maybe does have a price that at this moment is out of your reach? How do you have this experience without putting a limit on attracting it? That's a tricky one. And it's one that I fall subject to a lot, especially with money. You might find that money is one that a lot of us are born into families that have no idea how the vibrational currency of money works, which means you've probably heard your parents be like, don't leave the lights on. Money doesn't grow on trees. All this stuff costs money. What are you, crazy? Those pants are $30. What do you think? I'm made out of money. I'm not a Rockefeller. Just to name a few of my family's like favorite money lines, you know, money's the root of all evil, blah, blah, blah. So if you're like me and you have some of that programming, then you have a lot of fucking work to do to untangle it, right? And so how do you come up against something where you're like, I'd really like to stay in this place or own this car, but the price of it right now is not congruent to something that I'm capable of creating? This is a tricky one, but I've heard some really good really good ideas and suggestions about it that I think are funny. I mean, I really love when spiritual people are just really straight up. So I was listening to some guy go on and on about how he couldn't afford a Ferrari, and he was complaining to a spiritual guru that I follow. And he was like, what should I do? And she was like, you should shut the fuck up about it. And I was like, wow. Actually, yes, right? So that's one of the things that I'm always saying, right? Like if you can't see it as something that's a potential for you right now, you should probably drop it. You should probably stop talking about it. You should probably stop thinking about it, because we remember that if financial wealth is an energy, just like a currency, like any of the other energetic currencies that we speak about, right? Creating joy, creating love, creating peace, creating financial wealth and money, physical money is no different. It's all in the same pathway. And so what we learn is, as long as you don't screw it up, as long as you don't get in the way of it and block it, then the current is already flowing to you, right? So one of the other people I follow, Abraham, she always says that if you've already had the thought, if you've either had a dream about it or you've had a thought about it, or if you've had a desire for it, right? You've ever thought like, oh, maybe I could live in a huge mansion, or maybe I could have a private jet. If that thought has ever crossed your mind, it's because that the possibility of that experience already exists in your field of creation. That's wild to think, right? Because most of us think that our ideas or our crazy wild schemes are unreachable, but she says that's impossible. That in order for a thought or possibility to present itself to your mind, that means that it already exists and that it's somewhere creatable for you, right? That's could be a little scary if you think about it, because that means all the negative things that you've considered also could be potential experiences, right? But if you believe that where your attention is going, your energy is flowing, then by shifting to the positive ideas that you've had and the positive thoughts that have crossed your mind, you could really put most of your life's energy into creating those outcomes. So if that's true, and we're already flowing towards that, that is the path of least resistance, then we're going to create those outcomes. So in so many ways, the act of just remaining neutral, remaining calm, not offering a conflicting vibration is just as powerful as offering supporting vibration, right? So the best case scenario is, oh, I have this idea of wealth, and then I offer supportive vibrations to this idea of wealth, and therefore everything is moving in a positive momentum forward. That's the ideal experience, right? But another possible experience that also will work for you is, I have this idea of wealth, and now I'm just going to leave it in a state of neutrality, right? Universe already knows I have a desire for this experience, and now I'm just not going to get in the way of it. I'm not going to block it with worry about money, with fear about lack of money, with things like that's too expensive. You should just eliminate those 3 words from your life right now. Just stop saying it. If it looks too expensive, just shut up. Don't say anything. Yeah, I love that. Just shut the fuck up about it. There's not going to be any talk of it. We're just going to drop it, right? We're going to create neutrality. That's just the price. It doesn't mean anything. It's just a number, right? Because money has to stop being a charged thing. It's just a number. It doesn't mean anything. So today I'm talking so much about this because I am going to do a wealth focused meditation with you guys. And I'm going to ask you guys to put at least some of your creative energy, meaning your energy as a creator in this universe, towards creating some kind of financial step forward for yourself, right? Doesn't mean you have to become a billionaire overnight, although props if you manage to swing that, that's a huge energy current for you. But this is a moon with Taurus, this called the Beaver full moon. She has a lot of potential for creating luxury and comfort and wealth. And I'm a Capricorn, so I like money. So that's part of why we're doing this shit too. But I just want to take you through that. We haven't done that yet on the app. And I think for December, a lot of our focus might be the creation of wealth and how we can think about creating wealth through giving. Because what I've tended to find is that when I tell people things are going on in December, in October, they'll be like, oh, I'll be broke in December because I've got to buy Christmas presents. It's the holidays. And I'm like, did you just like declare brokenness on yourself as like a premonition into the future? Like, yikes, right? But think about how many times that's happened, right? Where you started being like, I got to buy my dentist, my fucking gardener, forget it. No one's getting anything. $5 gift cards for everybody for Starbucks. Because you start panicking and being like, this is going to be like a season of destitution, basically. But realistically, what you could be seeing is that a season of giving and a season of creation of joy and a season of celebration should be one of the quickest ways to wealth. Because when we talk about getting in the vibration of it, getting in alignment with it, we're talking about having joy, having love, having these high vibrational experiences, right? Having generosity of spirit, generosity of self. That's what the holiday season is. So no one should really walk away from it more broke than they went into it, unless they're misusing the energy patterns, right? And also, I've talked about this so much too. We think it's important to give a physical gift, but if that physical gift is tied to the stress that that gift is creating lack, then you may as well keep it because you're handing people some really shit energy in their little gift wrapping. So I want to talk a lot about that and how to make sure that this season of giving is also a season of creation, of harnessing that energy so that we can create more, right? So that we can create more for self and therefore more for others as well, so that we can move forward into the next year in power. And it's kind of interesting because I've realized, man, so many people probably end their year and go into one of the most important energetic portals, 1-1, right? The master number that starts the new year. It's why New Year's is so important and so powerful. You start that feeling broke and feeling like, well, shit, I spent all my money on Christmas presents. And I'm like, isn't that such a great way to just continuously repeat this cycle of brokenness? So that's going to be a big part of our focus in December. Now that we've spent November really thinking about cutting the bullshit out of our lives, we've created a lot of space for some new things to blossom and to develop. And I want some of those new things to be financial wealth and independence, because everybody is deserving of that. Everybody is capable of creating that. And I think it could just be fun. Let's just make money. That's good. That's good. That's fun for everybody. So we're going to get started into a nice money-centered meditation. And if you really enjoy this, or if you really want to keep this going, I recommend using these types of meditations more often. You can replay this one if you like it, or you can go on YouTube and dial up any number of money meditations. They're there for you, people. Love them. Start to make yourself comfortable. Find a nice place where you can rest, relax. Start to let your body sink into the floor or the couch or whatever surface you're sitting on. Just start to relax. Take a couple deep breaths. When you're ready, let your eyes fall closed. Fill your lungs completely with air on every inhale. And on the exhale, feel your body release, letting go of any tension you might be holding in your muscles, in your face, your neck, your jaw. Start to find some peace here. Feel the way your body is alive right now in this present moment. Take note of your life force energy, the energy that's flowing through you. Maybe just drawing notice to this gives you a little tingling feeling or sensation. This life force energy that's flowing through you now is the energy we're going to be using to attract wealth. Take an inhale, fill your lungs, and repeat with me on the exhale. I am wealthy. Inhale, repeat in your mind on the exhale. I am abundant. Inhale. Repeat in your mind on the exhale. I effortlessly attract money. Feel your body lighten up, relax. With your eyes closed, start to draw your attention toward your third eye, placed right in the center of your forehead. And I want you to start to picture, imagine, envision your wealthy, abundant, affluent life. What does it look like? Spend some time here. Explore it. Really get into the energy. This reality you're picturing already exists. It's already yours. Take a few moments here while you're in this visualization to check your bank account. Picture yourself pulling it up on your phone, on your computer, logging in. How much money is in your account? Picture it overflowing with more than you could ever want or need. When you see this balance, what's the first thing you do? I attract wealth, affluence, and luxury like a magnet. Take some deep breaths here. Make sure you're fully filling your lungs. Now I want you to shift out of this reality and spend a couple of minutes calling into your mind the things that currently make you wealthy. The roof over your head, the food on your table, the love of your friends and family, the health of your physical body, the love of your dog, or cat, parakeet, car you drive, any vacations or travel you've taken. All of these are signs of wealth and abundance in your everyday life. Take a few moments here and feel real gratitude for each of these things. The clothes on your back, the food in your fridge, am wealthy in all ways. I revel in abundance of mind, body, and spirit. I attract physical, financial, emotional, and spiritual wealth with ease. I'm so grateful for the ways I have already attracted wealth into my experience. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Take a few moments here to repeat your thank you. Keeping your breath nice and deep. And as I speak it, so it is. And so it is. And so it is. Take a couple more deep breaths here now. Feeling that life force energy expanding, swelling. Take another moment here, and when you're ready, you can begin to wiggle your fingers and toes. Shift around your body. Slowly open your eyes. Welcome back, guys. Hope everyone had a nice meditation. We did a nice short one today. Just kind of an intro to money meditation. A lot of visualization is useful when we are thinking about attracting wealth or attracting money. Other wealth affirmations I typically focus on. This is a great one. I will make a list of these for you when we do the December directive, and I give you guys everything that you should be doing. I'll remember to include my wealth affirmations in there, but most of them are similar to the ones that I gave you in the meditation, just that everything you speak as an affirmation as though it's already done, right? So I'm wealthy, I'm abundant, I attract luxury, I attract money, really anything like that, right? I am, sometimes I'll say things like my bank accounts are overflowing, I have more money than I could ever need or want. Things like that are all positive and powerful, but I have a few that I use that I really like. I like when things rhyme. So I will send you those. I'll make a list of them and send them to the program. These comments, not a question, but I really like this. You can definitely feel the hesitancy in the beginning, but letting go of that really helps to put you in a state of power. Yeah, I think it's funny because one of the things I've heard from people when I do this money meditation for them is that when I ask for you to picture a number in your bank account, some people pick like a number like $10,000. And I'm like, You could have picked any number, and like that's where you felt like limited, like that felt like a lot of money. And that kind of is another way for you to start realizing where you may have limitations with money, right? Like, what number did you see in your bank account? That's a big one, because that's kind of whatever amount of money you saw is telling you that you thought that that was a lot of money, more than you would ever need. But some people think like 10,000 or 100,000 or something like that much money is like, that's an astronomical amount of money, but that's putting a pretty solid limit on your ability to acquire wealth, right? Because you could acquire infinite amounts of wealth technically. So, man, to lock yourself off at a couple thousand or 100,000, that's really actually a very small number. Obviously, it's not the way we're programmed to see money. We think that would be a huge thing to open your bank account and see $100,000 in there, but really it's not. And the faster we believe that and we get there, the better that will be for you. Yeah, when I was training for the Amazing Race, one of the things that we did that I feel was really, really powerful is that we ripped out checks from our checkbooks and we wrote them out as the $500,000 checks, and we like kept them up on the wall just so we would be used to seeing that amount of money on a piece of paper. That way we wouldn't think that that was a crazy thing, and just got kind of used to seeing it every day. Like, yeah, that's my $500,000 check. And then not even a year later, it was in real life. We had it. 500 billion. That's good. Nice. That's not a bad number. Probably still too small, but it's a good start. Better than 10,000. How do I stay in this mindset when we are searching for places to live? Like I said, right now, the biggest thing that I'm doing is just shutting up. If the place is too expensive, then just shut up. Like, there's no reason to even have that thought. There's no reason to have that conversation at all. Like, there's nothing, realistically, there is no too expensive, right? There is that which I have not yet managed to unlock for myself in the field of my reality, and that which is already unlocked. So what I would really be seeing is here's houses and levels that I haven't unlocked yet, right? So it's very much like when you're playing a video game and you can see all the levels to come, but you haven't maybe gotten there. But it doesn't mean that they're too hard, too far away. No, it's funny because if it was a video game, if it was a real video game, you wouldn't even think that. You would just be thinking, okay, I got to get there. That's the next level. That's the next level. That's the next level. And you'd be kind of motivated, right? And when you played this one level and you didn't beat it, you would play it again, right? At least I did. I was obsessed with like video games like that, where you could constantly unlock levels. And real life is no different, but instead of being excited by seeing these other level of possibilities, right? Like when you sign into something, when we sign into Airbnb and we see that properties could be $40,000, $100,000 a month, that should be really exciting, because that's showing that there's more out there to unlock and to acquire, right? If those properties didn't exist, then basically we'd be saying we're at the top level of experience, which would be kind of disappointing, because then what are we supposed to do for the next 40 years that we're alive, or however long it is? So what we need to be doing, and what I'm working on doing, is being able to see everything that is as a possible outcome, and understanding that they actually are already, like in the meditation, I said this, it already exists. It's already there for you. It's not a matter of creating it. It's a matter of accessing it, right? Because if this energetic law is true, right? And it's called a law for a reason, because it has stood the test of a lot of practice, right? If this energetic law is true, that when you think something, you've already created the energetic potential in your environment, in the universe, then you don't have to create it. You just have to be able to access it, to unlock it, right? And it sounds simple enough. How do we unlock it? Get in the vibrational alignment with it and don't offer conflicting vibratory patterns. Great, no problem. But actually, big problem. And actually, if you got called on your shit, how many times not only like a week, like how many times a day do you have thoughts that relate to limits about money? That gas is too expensive. How much would the groceries cost? How much did this cost? How much did that cost? How much is in my bank account? You're constantly looking at limits and like blockages with money. Actually, you guys might be kind of horrified to hear this, but I think that in the past, like 2.5 years, I've checked my bank account balance like 4 times. I don't even check it. Sometimes I check it and I'm like, wow, we're good. Like I can't believe that we're just doing it. Cause I'll like make huge purchases and be like, wow, like there's money in there. You know what I mean? Like, but I found that checking my balance gives me a limited mindset about money. It makes me feel like, and I know my father would murder me for not like balancing my checkbook, but I'm not doing that. And I haven't been doing that for a very long time. And I have more money than most people that I know. So I feel like maybe that's working, because when I was younger, I used to check my bank account balance every day. I would be like nickel and dime. Like I spent one nickel. Where did it go? And what about this? And oh, here's $5 missing. But geez, that's major, major money limitation thought process, isn't it? I feel like you could easily move intuitively with your money. And, that's really what I do. I move intuitively with everything. And I have not come into any kind of conflict with that so far. But I mean, yeah, the answer to it is if I can't get myself to just get excited about the possibility or see the possibility as the real outcome, I just try to ignore it altogether. I just pretend I don't see it, just want nothing to do with it, just focus on, what I'm doing that is in alignment with where I'm at right now, if I can't do the alternative. How do you balance a wealth mindset with money management? That's a good one. Honestly, everything has to do with your perspective, right? So realistically, the fact is we have decided what is not enough and what is enough, right? So technically you should be able to open up your bank account balance and see $500, $2, $10,000 and still be like, money is present, right? That's it. Like that is the truth, right? Money exists for you. And that should be enough. That's enough of a coercive and collaborative, vibration to create more of that which is. So the problem is when you open your bank account or you go to manage your money and you're critical of the amount in the bank account, now we're offering a conflicting vibratory pattern that's going to create more lack and create more drain on this financial resource. So realistically, everything about money management, sure, balance your checkbooks, sure, like look into your investments, right? I check my investment portfolios sometimes, but I have to be mentally prepared. I have to be like, whatever number's in there, it's a lot of money and it's wealth and it is money, right? That is what we have to constantly remember, that, we have to have this positive association with the amount in our bank accounts. And honestly, now thinking about it, I think most people look at the amount in their bank account and expect it to dwindle, but not to grow. So you're looking at it being like, okay, well, if this is all the money I ever had, and this is the limit of the money that I'm going to acquire, then this is how I better move accordingly to conserve this amount of money. But realistically, again, that's another financial limitation, right? You're not saying, okay, here's money that I have that now I'm going to grow. So what is this going to look like in a month? It's going to be double this number or triple this number, quadruple this number. We're thinking of it more of in like, okay, well, these are the resources, so we better strangle them so that we don't deplete them. But when we have that lack mindset about anything, we deplete it just from the nature of the mindset, right? So money, like any other physical resource, really can't be looked at that way. This is just a tentative experience, right? Whatever you have is basically a springboard. It's a starting point, and it can constantly, just the way it can be depleted, that we are so conscious of that and we're so prepared for that. Well, what if we got so conscious of the fact that it could multiply? What are you going to do with it, right? What's the excitement for that, right? What's the preparation for that? And if you ask people money management, how often is money management and preparation for growing and acquiring wealth? And how much is it preparation for losing wealth? I'll tell you 99% of people's effort goes towards the loss and not towards the creation or the gain. So I would say if you're doing that, flip it. right? Well, this bank account's not going to be big enough for my 500 billion. So I'm going to have to get a couple more, right? Let's start thinking about that. Where, if I had this money, where would I put it? How would I invest it? People say, I want to buy real estate. Do you know anything about buying real estate? If you don't, then you are not in alignment with what you're claiming the next step of your life is supposed to be. So you'd better use some of the time that you waste worrying about how much your groceries cost to read a book about property acquisition, right? You need to learn about how to own property. What does that mean, right? So I would just say plan for the future being accumulation, not depletion. And if we could even make that simple mindset, and if we could even understand that every day we've done that to ourselves, we've actually created a destitute mindset, a lack of wealth mindset, then we should be incredibly impressed that there's any number in your bank account, right? If you're here, I know you have at least $11. So rock on. Somehow you managed to get $11 together. That's a big fucking deal. There's a lot of people on this planet who don't have $11. So, you know, and 11 is a good number, power number. So whatever you have, get ready for it to grow and actually be ready for it to grow. You know, like we talk about all the time, universe gives you time. She gives you time to get ready. If you say you want to get married, that's great. Attracting your partner, that's a step. But what about all the other steps? Are you prepared to be a wife or a husband? Do you know what goes into a marriage? Have you done the work on yourself? Have you decided what kind of partner you're going to be? Have you, you know, spoken to someone that you feel can lead you in that direction? Have you journaled? Have you done that work, right? Have you read books about it by experts? Have you done relationship courses? Are you really ready for what that would take? Most people, no. They just think that the trick to get married and have a lasting relationship is find your person. That's step one. That's where the journey starts. That's nowhere near looking down the, you know, down the pipeline at what it would take. So when we're thinking about wealth, we have to be thinking about, what are we saying we're going to do when we acquire wealth? For me, I always say, like, I want to acquire wealth through owning a company that is impactful. And the fact is, I don't have information about owning large companies. I know how to run a small business, but if that's the limit of my knowledge, then that's going to be the limit of my experience, right? So I have to now start looking at, what does it take to run billion-dollar companies if I want to own a billion-dollar company? I haven't the slightest idea. Right. So that's the next step in me understanding wealth acquisition. I need to go bigger. I need to learn bigger, and I need to do that now. Right. And that, I think, is a major trick, a major thing that people who were born into mid-size income families don't have access to. That's where the rich get richer, because they're born into this understanding of wealth, right? You want to know how to run $1 billion business, call your uncle. He owns $1 billion business, no problem. What if you don't have a rich uncle, or you don't have a rich family member, and you just don't have access to that information, right? Maybe you weren't exposed to it as a child. Your parents didn't own companies. That's difficult. However, it's not an excuse, because we know information is everywhere, especially now between YouTube and books on tape. And, you know, you could learn how to acquire wealth from the wealthiest people on the planet. And if you're not doing that, then you're not really preparing for or forward thinking for wealth. You're preparing for and forward thinking for failure. And if you're doing that, then you're creating that. So don't be surprised when you come out the other side of this pipeline without any money. So, you know, at this point, it's got to be about your mindset, and it's got to be about thinking about the journey of your life, the physical journey of your life, as the same as your emotional and spiritual journey of your life, right? So if you said to me, I want to go to Thailand, I would say to you, okay, so what do you feel the next steps are, right? You'd say, I'd buy a plane ticket. Great. That's one step. Is that all you're going to do? Or are you going to look into what to do when you get there, how to be prepared for the weather, what the weather looks like? Are you going to look into visa requirements, embassy requirements? Are you going to look into places to stay, right? You're going to look ahead and you're going to prepare yourself for that trip. You're going to know what to pack, you're going to know where you want to go, and you're going to look into learning about the culture that you're going to. Most people besides me don't just buy a ticket and show up, right? I'm the only person that does that. Most people would prepare. If it was a physical journey, of course we're going to prepare, right? That's a no-brainer. Okay, but this is also a physical journey. The journey to acquisition of wealth is also a physical journey, just as much an energetic journey, just like the trip to Thailand is a physical and an energetic journey. It requires the same planning. You've got to look ahead. If you see on the website, okay, to be in Thailand, you need to have these 4 things and you don't have them, guess what? You're not going. So if you look ahead at the journey of being truly, truly wealthy and having $500 billion in your account, and you think, okay, that's going to require me to know how to manage money, know how to invest money, know how to care for, money, how to protect myself. Guess what? When you have $500 billion in your account, you're a pretty sought after, powerful human being. How are you going to protect yourself? What's the plan? If you don't have one, then you're not going. You have to have at least a cursory understanding of what it really looks like to have what you desire, right? Like I tell people all the time, you really want to go to Thailand, you got to picture yourself there. You really got to get there. You got to get there here before you get there here. Financial trip, the same thing. Yeah. If you're the type of person that says that's too expensive, then you're not the type of person that has $500 billion in their bank account. If you're the type of person who says, how much is that? Then you're not the type of person who has $500 billion in their bank account, right? If you're the type of person who says, yeah, I was supposed to go to work, but I slept in, then you're not the kind of person who has $500 billion in their bank account, right? So you have to start getting in alignment with that person, right? With the person that you need to become. What would you think about if you had that much money? And if you really can't get there, if you really don't know, then let's start looking at some people who have acquired that much money. It doesn't mean we're going to have the same experience as them or all of their insights are going to be valuable, but maybe some of them will be. Maybe something will snap in your brain, right? Which is why I always say when you're going out in the mission of acquiring knowledge, cast a wide net. Think about a lot of people who've done it a lot of different ways and acknowledge that your unique experience will always be different and will always look different than things that have already been done because those energetic vibrational experiences are already taken. They're already realized by somebody else. But cast a wide net. See if anything sparks an understanding in you that you don't already have or gives you an idea that you don't already have. And in the process, be preparing yourself, right? Be preparing yourself for what you're asking to receive. So hopefully that's helpful to you guys. I love you guys very much. I'm excited to release one more tutorial for you this month. I'll shoot it and release it and do the whole 9 yards for you on Sunday. And I might do one more chat with you just to close out November because this one's a bit early to be the last chat. So maybe we'll do one more at the end of the month. And in the next chat, I'd really love for you guys to give me updates on what you decided to cut out and how you did that. And did you see success with it? Are you still a work in progress with it? As you can see for me, one of the things that I've decided to try to cut out is my bullshit, like money mindset, right? Obviously, I have some ties to lack that I'm carrying, right? Because I haven't acquired the amount that I see in my bank account yet. So I'm cutting out any bullshit habits, right? The habit of looking at Airbnb and being like, that's too expensive. That's got to go. Yeah. Yeah. Selena, what's your question?
Hi. This is a question without being a question. It's weird. If what you talked about, like the money, this kind of meditation with money, this mindset, is it about like everything or just about money? Like it's mostly about everything, like this mindset. I don't know if you see what I'm saying. Like having this mindset, like being prepared of something before it happens to you, and is that for everything?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, everything that we think about in our desired experiences, everything that we think we want, whether we want to attract a soulmate or a lifetime love, whether we want to attract a large amount of money, whether we want to attract success in our career, whether we want to attract our life's purpose, we are attracting both a physical outcome and an energetic outcome. So we have to be preparing both of those bodies, right? you're an energetic body, but you're inside a physical construct. So you have two different things at play, right? We have the actual physical money or the physical purpose or job or the physical office building that you work in that you're trying to, the physical human being, right? But we also have the energetic experience of the feeling and the attraction and the energetic connections required to attract these things. So yes, in order to attract and create any of these things, we must be looking at the type of person we'll need to become in order to have that, right? So I talked a little bit about if you're attracting your soulmate and you're looking for a marriage or a lifetime relationship, there's a lot more that goes into it other than being an energetic point of attraction for your soulmate, right? There's a lot of other things to consider. Do you want children? Are you going to share your finances? Who is going to be in charge of what duties in the household? What would you be comfortable with? What are your boundaries in the relationship? All types of things like that that you should be pretty clear on, right? Are you working on your communication skills? Are you prepared to be verbal? Are you prepared to show up? Are you prepared to compromise? So doing that work and preparing yourself in physical ways makes you more likely to become an energetic point of attraction for that outcome as well, right? So what I also want to make very clear is that we think we want to attract a large sum of money. That's the first thing everybody thinks. Just like we think we want to attract soulmates. But realistically, I encourage people to realize that there's very small distinctions here that you must be very clear with, right? There's this old movie that I loved because it was so corny. I don't know if you've ever seen it. Probably not. I don't think half of you weren't even alive. It was called Bedazzled, I think. And it was like Elizabeth Hurley, and she plays the devil. And she gets this guy to sell his soul to her in exchange for wishes. And she gives him exactly what he asks for. But all of these things like turn out horribly, and they just like kind of blow up in his face because he's not asking specifically enough, right? And it's a funny movie, but it's actually very sophisticated and maybe ahead of the message he was even trying to send, which is that the universe acts the same way. So if you're not super clear and you're not behaving in a way that's super aligned, then she's going to be like, here you go, right? So what I'm meaning to say is that if you say you want to attract a large sum of money, that's dangerous, right? Okay, you can attract it, but then what? Do you want to also lose a large sum of money? Because that's one of the potential outcomes that comes with attracting a large sums of money, right? Attract $1 million, you could easily also lose $1 million or more. You could poorly invest it and end up even broker than when you started. Most people are not trying to attract a one-off outcome. They're trying to attract a lifestyle or a permanent outcome, right? You're trying to attract wealth that continues to accumulate, not wealth that is a flash in the pan, right? You're trying to attract a soulmate that remains present and in a permanent relationship. We better get pretty clear about that. And it's funny because for a lot of time when I was trying to, I think law of attraction, when I tried to run the Amazing Race, was like the key thing that I use. So I often go back to that experience because it just fits in so many models of like what I'm trying to teach. But I used to be very clear because I made this mistake at the beginning, thinking that I wanted to be on the Amazing Race. I wanted to run the Amazing Race. And then very quickly I realized, holy shit, I don't want to be on the Amazing Race. I want to be on the Amazing Race and then win. So don't give me a set of circumstances that are going to put me on the show and then I lose. I'm not into it. I'd rather not be on it at all, right? I want to be on the Amazing Race and I want to win. So that's a completely different wish than I want to be on the Amazing Race, right? And because I was so specific, I got very close to almost booking the show. Maybe 10 times they called me and were like, oh, you might be on season 17, 19, 20, 22. And I was like, the fuck? Like, I'm almost on the show. And I really think that if I had not been clear enough, I probably would have booked one of those seasons, but I probably wouldn't have won, right? I would have had a different partner. I would have been a different age. I would have had different information. I would have had different competitors, and everything would have been different. And it might not have been conducive to playing exactly as it played out, right? So I think that it's also understanding that what you're trying to attract will take longer if what you're trying to attract is something permanent, right? Attracting someone that you're a soulmate with or that you're soul aligned with That might not take too long, but that might not also last the rest of your life. So, you got to be willing to put in the time if we want to create long lasting and if we want to create outcomes that create more, then we have to be prepared to be putting in the work and to be keeping our focus on those kinds of outcomes, right? So they're rarely ever instant gratification or things that come quickly. They're often things that evolve and come over time because of this aspect that I'm teaching you, which is that in order for you to get there, you need to get there, right? You need to have information, both actual knowledge and information that you need to acquire, but also you need to have energetic information. You need to have some idea of how to align with that. And this is tricky because most of these things are things you've never had before. So getting into energetic alignment with it is a tricky challenge. And getting into the amount of information or the type of information you might need is also tricky because you've never done it before. But that's what life is all about, right? Creating these outcomes. And in a lot of ways, we do kind of just guess, right? We just use our intuitive body and we look around at the world around us and we gather information and we kind of just start to guess, right? Maybe you've seen two people in a relationship that you really admire an aspect of their relationship, or you've seen a marriage that has lasted and there's aspects of it that work that you would like to take on into your own energetic body. So you kind of do it that way, more like you piecemeal take things that work for you. And at the same time, you're clearing and cleansing things that you know are blockages or that are not working or that are not conducive to this outcome. So yes, it works for everything because everything is the same, right? Everything is one. There is nothing that is different than anything else. This illusion of separation and difference is that it's an illusion. Everything is the same. So if you can do it with something, you can do it with everything.
Okay, thank you. Because I don't know if it's like, I think it's right, and I love it. I told you about my arms, like the problem on my skin, and I really like maybe 2 or 3 months ago, I visualized my skin like this, like it was before, like 10 years ago, and like day by days, my skin started to be normal, and I can use like soap like everyone's like. It's just so crazy. Like, can you imagine 10 years being like unhealthy, having an unhealthy skin? And I visualized. It is so hard to say it. My skin like this, and now it's just perfect. I don't have anything, and like I'm just so grateful for that. This is just so crazy. And yeah, thank you for making me realize this.
You're welcome. I'm very happy for you. I would just say to beware of the fact that you've done a lot of visualization work towards this, but you've done way more visualization work seeing your skin in the previous condition. So just because you've gotten to this healthy skin condition, it doesn't mean you can just kind of leave it, because your natural and your dominant programming is for your skin to be in the previous condition, which means that you have to now feel gratitude for and feel present with this current skin condition, this condition of health, every single day. You cannot let that slip, because you have to realize you've done a decade of work visualizing and experiencing an unhealthy skin condition. So you have to put in the exact same amount of work on the other side to hold yourself in this way, which also means making sure you're releasing any possibility that you have of fear that this is temporary, right? Like, oh, what if it goes back, or what if it doesn't last, or what if, right? Because sometimes, like I said, when we attract outcomes, we forget to attract permanent outcomes. And a lot of the times for people who have not had wealth in the past, the acquisition of wealth also creates fear, right? You would think, okay, the day I see that $1 million hit my account, I'm going to be free and at peace. But most people start immediately panicking about, what if I fuck this up and lose $1 million? In some ways, that feels worse than just being broke straight through, because now you've had the experience of wealth. So losing it's even worse, right? Because most of us are just imagining what it would be like to be wealthy. And we think that that would be pretty great. And now we're upset that we're not in that position. But what if you had it and it was great and then you lost it? That seems to be more scary and more painful. So it's my belief and my theory that most people actually keep themselves from those outcomes because they don't want to deal with that. So, you know, in this case with your skin or with any experience with attracting money, we don't want to come to a period where we've actually attracted the outcome and then fall apart, right? So we have to make sure that at every single stage of creation, fear is not a factor. Once fear becomes a factor, lack becomes unavoidable, right? So we want to create an experience where your skin is healthy and there's no fear that it will ever regress, and that there's no worry about that, and that there's no thought of it. We'll just wipe it from our memory. This new experience is the only experience that we're going to acknowledge. It's the only reality that we care about. This experience or something better, right? This experience or something greater. Those are the only things that we have energy to give. There's no other energy left. So we can't worry about a regression. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you so much.
You're welcome, my darling. All right, guys, I love you. Thank you guys for tuning in with me from my little cabin. It was really fun chatting with you. I hope that this was helpful. I hope that you guys did do the bullet pointed little affirmation things that I sent you yesterday, the tasks for the moon. If you haven't, you can still do them this evening, and you can probably even do them tomorrow evening. Like I said, the eclipse happened around 1 a.m. I think EST yesterday, well, early this morning. It took about 6 hours. It was the longest eclipse we've had in centuries. I think it was like 580 years or something since we've had an eclipse that took that long. So really super powerful magnetic portal. So if you haven't done it yet, you can do it this evening, or tomorrow, or whenever. Honestly, it doesn't matter. It's always better to do it with the moon, but just do it. It's better to do it whenever than to not do it at all. I love you guys. I'll be back this weekend with a new tutorial, and I'll see you guys soon. Love you guys.